Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant General Bob Wood back to the stage.
Well, I hope you're enjoying your lunch. We are pleased to present our keynote speaker for lunch and talk a moment. It's funny, we're having at the table down here at Mr. Geurts' Hondo. We've been telling stories over here, and there are a lot of good ones over here. We're going to invite Mr. Hondo Geurts forward as a keynote speaker. He's the director of AT&L at SOCOM. We were talking for a little bit about the Frogman Swim in 9 January, something about a long swim in the ocean in January. Perhaps we can get to that in questions and answers. I listened to Mr. Geurts speak at Suffolk, and it was a remarkable presentation that really opened the eyes of a lot in the audience about the way SOCOM approaches their mission and approaches their support to that mission in a variety of ways in acquisition, development, and really the integration of science and technology. I think you'll really enjoy the presentation. I'd like to have you please welcome with me Mr. Hondo Geurts, Director AT&L at SOCOM.
All right, everybody hear me? All right, so after lunch, or you're still eating, so there's going to be some audience participation here. How many are small business guys out there? All right, big business? Gubbies? Academic? Freeloaders just coming here for free lunch? Hey, welcome. I mean, these things are really good to get everybody together. And as I go through the day, I'll kind of talk about what we're trying to do at SOCOM. One of them is create good collision space, right? Run into folks that may have an answer to a question you didn't know to ask them, they didn't know you had. But getting together, you can all work on things together. So, again, after lunch, I know how it goes. I'm going to give you a quiz. In my presentation, I have a T-Rex, Ozzy Osbourne, a parrot, an eagle, a mule, black keys, and a barber. If you see all those by the time we're done, call bingo, all right? All right. So first off, welcome to Tampa. You know, Tampa's a pretty awesome place. SOCOM's a pretty awesome place. You know, as a way of intro, some of you may recognize on the left a program called Java Man, right? It was kind of the precursor to Liberty back in the 06, 07, 08 timeframe. We were having a lot of ISR issues. It was us all getting together, working on a problem, fielding stuff downrange quickly. What you might not recognize is anything on the bottom, which was the original Java Man program. Anybody know anything about that program? First real use of television, then classified called the block. First remotely piloted vehicles. By the time they were done, they could remotely pilot 4 boats at a range of 85 miles from a B-17. All controlled on there. Took less than 10 months to do. So you're in a very innovation-rich district here. And again, that's a lot of what we're trying to rekindle. And I think what SOCOM does well, what the DoD used to do well as a whole, what we're trying to bring back. Our challenge, obviously, is everything's accelerating, right? I think I looked at the numbers before I came over here. Mr. Wilcox is here, can give you the exact. I think we have fielded 250 times the number of remote deployable nodes in the last 10 years. We've at least 100 times multiplied the amount of data storage we have. And so you think about doing that now, not just in CENTCOM, but on a global scale, with a variety of partners, in a variety of environments, on a variety of missions. In this age, what I call the age of surprise, where your timelines are shorter, you know, whether it's in the competitive cycle, whether it's against our enemies, everything's shorter. And so to me, it's all about iteration speed. And I'm going to play a video here that kind of gives you a sense of what I call that age of surprise, give you a sense of what we're trying to go after. How many people think our DoD acquisition system's ready for that? Right? I'm an Air Force guy, so I kind of like that video. So part of what we're trying to do in Special Operations Command is kind of deal with that element, age of surprise. Plan for the unplanned. How do you create a system, a capability, a set of people, a set of systems that can as quickly react to a problem you trained for as a problem you didn't know you had? Because, you know, if I ask my mom and dad, hey, something bad happens, who are they going to call, right? It's a little bit of SOCOM. And so on the acquisition side, that drives a mindset, it drives a culture, it drives a set of relationships. And kind of as Gerald Votel says in there, the nation depends on us to be able to innovate and answer questions even if we didn't know they were going to be asked of us. Your soft team is about 70,000 dispersed all around the world. We kind of have two halves of us. One half of us is what you'd call the force providers, train, organize, and equip. So these are your AFSOCs and your WARCOM and your MARSOC, JSOC, and USASOC. And so their element is a lot of what you guys deal with on acquiring programs, setting up infrastructure, and whatnot. And then the force appliers are our theater special operations commands, two-star commands out at all the different GCC headquarters. And the TSOCs live under SOCOM's broad umbrella, but they're there to support the geographic commanders that they're working in their AOR. So if you're new to special ops, think of us kind of in two of those halves. One is a force provider, one is a force applier. And so the components on the previous chart will chop forces to the TSOCs for them to go execute on behalf of those geographic combatant commands. SOF priorities, if you were here at SOFIC, you would have seen these from the commander. They haven't changed. We've been working through these. They guide everything we're doing. It's pretty easy to figure out, you know, where the acquisition and logistics community tie into those. So not only are we, you know, assuring tonight's readiness for all the missions we have, but spending a lot of time planning for the future. You know, we do a lot of work with our services to not only help us bring new technology forward, but rapidly give that to the services so that they can take care of it. And then everything we do is about our people. Technology, acquisition, logistics is all there for the operator. And so how do we apply those same mindsets to create a sustainable force? In terms of SOF AT&L, I am fortunate. Our organization is responsible for everything, science and technology, all acquisition, all contracting, all logistics, to include operational logistics. Really the only organization I know in the DoD where we can link all that together seamlessly. So I can have my deployable cell in the J4 call on my science and technology guys to bring new technology to that. So if we have a communications issue on how we're supporting a force, immediately we can rope that back to technology. We're doing on average about 200 combat evaluations at any given time. So we can take what we're doing in science technology, put it forward, test it, figure out what works to better inform the acquisition program. In terms of, again, just like our operational force, it's all about people. We were talking at lunch, you know, what is a difference maker? My acquisition technology logistics folks are as soft as the operators they're supporting. So they apply all that same mindset, courage, creativity, competence, integrity. The same things we teach all of our operators are the same principles we operate under. They just operate in the acquisition battle space. So how do you apply a soft mindset into a largely regulated environment? So here's my quiz for you. Do I fall under DoD 5000? Yes or no? Yes? Yep, I do. Do I have any special rules, authorities, or waivers that the services don't have? Yes? Nope. Exact same. So it's a matter of culture and how do you apply it? How do you grow a workforce that operates well in this environment? And then how do you work within the larger ecosystem? You'll see in a little bit, I'll put our R&D charts up. You know, we have $50 to $60 million of science and technology money against a, I don't know, $20 billion science and technology budget in the DoD. So our job isn't to invent things as much as apply them quickly to relevant problems. So kind of on the left-hand side, same with your IR&D and whatnot if you're in industry, how do we take what's out there, bring it to the field quickly, maybe adapt it to a different use, and then bring that feedback quickly back into the system? And so that's a relationship on the development side. On the acquisition side, similarly, we don't build C-130s, we build AC-130s. So how do we take an AC-130 or a CH-47, monster garage it, give it some new capability, allow it to do something new, as well as inform back to the folks we're working with? Similarly with the comm stuff, right? How do we take what labs are working on in the services, apply them to our problem set, and then as applicable, let those go back into services? In terms of the competitive landscape, another misnomer is we've got a bunch of, secret industry partners all on Gucci sole source contracts, and that's how we go fast. We actually go fast through competition. So I don't have the DoD stat for the year, but we're well above the DoD, I think 30% above the Air Force average for competition, almost 76%. So 3 out of every $4, we compete in the command. So anyone that says you can't compete and go fast, you can't if you don't set up your competitions the right way, but if you do, you can actually go faster through competition. Similarly with small business, about 1 out of every $3 goes direct to small business as a prime. Again, innovation. So we compete a lot because that's where we see competitiveness, that's where we see a lot of innovation. I used to be a contractor. I know how to write proposals. That's where you do a lot of your very innovative thought. It's where we re-question our requirements and make sure they make sense. Small business brings a lot of innovation and a lot of quick adaptability. So we do a lot of small business. The veteran-owned small business, over 10% there. So first time in the command's history, we have beaten every one of the small business goals. And what I like about it is we did it not to make a number. It's because we set up the acquisitions to put small business where it was appropriate and not to put them where it wasn't appropriate. In terms of outlook, I think if you're, again, at SOFIC, you heard me talk about our R&D levels. We were starting to suffer like the services and trim down our R&D at the expense, to fund other things. So this year, we've turned that around. And you're going to see when the 17 budget comes out, you'll see our R&D numbers continue to grow. The belief at the command is if we aren't at about 5% of our TOA, or our total dollars in R&D as a minimum, we're not going to be able to continue to go for the future. So the good news is that's not predictable for us. So when we work cooperative R&D programs and a number of other things, you can see an end to actually being able to fund a development program to bring that into the force. Similarly on production, you're seeing our production numbers go back up. And what's also interesting in our production programs is we're now building what I call catcher's mitts. So these programs, the big frustration is you have an R&D success, a company comes up with a great new product, something comes there, and then you're like, oh man, I guess I'll wait for 2 more POM cycles and 3 years before I do anything. And we act like we're surprised that there's something new that comes out. And so what we're doing in a lot of our programs now is what I call building catcher's mitts, where we have buy points pre-planned into the program. So for our ISR aircraft, I don't know what sensor I need in 2 years, but I know I'm going to take whatever the best sensor there is. And so by shortening that acquisition cycle, we can now start buying at technology rates, and by pre-planning it into the program, it's not a surprise that there's new technology. We'll buy whatever the best technology is at the time. So with that, then you line CRADAs and a lot of these other things we're doing, and that creates the pool from which you can quickly decide what do you need on the battlefield, and then procure it into a program. And then to do that, we've got to curb what was happening to us on sustainment. Not unlike the services, our O&M was going through the roof. And that was crowding out our ability to buy new technology and buy new equipment. So we spent a lot of effort re-looking at our sustainment plans and strategies, re-looking where we were spending money, particularly in the comm IT world, as the requirements on the J6 have continued to spike. How do we affordably address those requirements and allow us to both sustain what we have and bring new technology into the force? And so again, thinking about where we're heading, it's how do I make the most of all the O&M I have to give me an ability to rapidly fund R&D, to set fixed points in all the programs that allows us to buy at the pace of technology and operational requirements, not at the pace of a palm. So doing all that with about 500 to 600 folks allows us to crank an output out like this. So all that other stuff is kind of interesting but irrelevant. I'm an output guy. So what do we deliver to the force? And that's just kind of a snapshot of what we've delivered to the force. Pretty amazing set of numbers for about 600 folks. Doing some pretty amazing, innovative things. We'll talk through some of that as we go on. Give you now it's been about 10 minutes that lunch coma is starting to settle in. So let's see, I think I have a little heavy metal music here to get you going. There we go. Turn it up so they don't fall asleep.
For your protection and ours, do you understand?
Cool stuff, huh? I do have the best job in the world. What's interesting about all that, there was a comm section, JW, so, but almost everything in there had a comm piece of equipment on it. And so, long gone are the days of, the comm guys just worry about a couple radios and a network. Everything's networked. How do we bring all that together? That's, part of our challenge. We work on a wide array of programs, everything from submarines to satellites, everything in between. And so, again, a very diverse portfolio of activities. Similarly, in the C4 world, our goal is to get down to any soldier deployed the same capabilities he's got in garrison at all classification levels. So, pretty diverse set of activities we're working on, lots of opportunities. And then similarly, we have a lot of service activities. So, buying manpower, stood up a PEO for services, so we could continue to improve that. A lot of you will be interested in sci-tech contracts and things we're recompeting on the IT services side. So here's one of our other challenges.
Welcome to 4G. Don't touch my hammer.
Okay, all right. This is the new version. This is the 5G.
No, now it's 4G.
It's just 5G. So
Okay,
now it's 5G.
This is 5G, I think.
It's a 5G.
What you talking about?
Just a 5G. Just
I'm
say a
getting
5. Just
pretty
say
damn
5G.
All aboard the 5G train! How many bloody G's are there?
I'll take it from here.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're gonna lose Ozzy. Bring in the new one.
Marker.
Ozzy's in the background, guys.
What?
He's in the background.
It's the way out.
It's Bieber, 6G Fever.
What's a 6G?
What the f***'s a Bieber?
So, pretty instructive video there. That's actually Bieber in the middle in makeup. So how many people recognize Ozzy? How many people recognize Bieber? Not as many, right? So, you know, not only do we have the speed of technology issue, we got a workforce issue, we got generational issues, all these, all good things to work through. And, you know, kind of my fear is this: when the world's changing on the outside faster than we can change with it, right, your end's near. And I really sense that as, you know, a fundamental challenge, even in SOCOM, and I think we're pretty good at keeping up with technology. Even us going through the traditional methods, that diversity of problem set, the speed of technology, the age of surprise of problems are kind of making us rethink how do we attack a number of these things. So Tony Davis, I think, was on a panel earlier, our kind of S&T advisor, is really looking at how do we plan for the future? How do we even understand what's out there? How do we understand how to attract that in and figure out what's of value to us? How do we understand what the threat's doing? How do we understand what the operational need is and put all that together in an efficient kind of system? And so he spent a lot of work in that. We kind of necked it down to a core set of S&T needs, but I'll tell you, if there's a piece of technology, don't be afraid to bring it to us if it isn't on this list, because I may not know I need it until I see it. And so a lot of what we're also doing is how do we improve the way we interact with industry? We're pretty good at applying technology to different problem sets. Our real challenge is how do we keep an eye on everything that's going on out there? Part of the things we're doing is working on some new tools. So one of them is Project Vulcan, which is just a simple way for us to track technology, turn every one of our 70,000 people on the SOCOM side into a technology sensor. How do we link in them with our partners, our foreign partners, our industry partners, link all that in together so that we don't have to go discover stuff. We know what's out there, and we've got a way to sort it out and can quickly apply it to a problem. Doing a lot of work in experimentation. I know a number of you have been out there on the technology experimentations. How do I reduce the barriers for you to come out and show me a piece of equipment? Doing a lot of work kind of Tylo 2.0. I'm not real happy with the way that whole Tylo system's working right now. There's I think, better ways out there. A week ago, one of our PEOs has started kind of doing the software guys had a big PEO session. You know, we'll tell you what we're doing. You tell us what you're interested that might apply, and then we can figure out where to go from there. And then here in the local area, we've stood up a couple facilities, kind of SoftWorks facilities. You know, and these are kind of collaboration work zones, which again makes it easier for you to come in, see what we're working on, bring some technology, help us innovate on a couple different areas. Talos, our kind of next generation protection for soldiers. We're actually doing a lot of it out there. And so create different venues and opportunities to work together. Because again, I think my job is to figure out how to make it as easy as possible for you to industry to bring me a solution as quickly and cost affordably as you can, and to give you an idea of what things are of interest to us. So we're approaching this on a whole bunch of different fronts. We can go into a lot of detail, but there's a lot of more flexibility in the system than we generally in the acquisition community take advantage of. So I'm interested if you've got other ideas where to go. You know, what was the number? 127 visits in the last 12 months would be from industry. Again, don't come to me to sell me a product. 99.7% of all the programs are all decisions are at the 06 level or lower at the PEOs. So if you have a product, go to the PEO. If you have a new way you want to do business or a way we can do something better together, come see me. So I work the culture and the environment. PEOs work the program specifics. And again, this SoftWorks, in its largest construct, I'm thinking about fellowships. We're working with a lot of the local universities on internships, co-work spaces, divergent collaboration sessions, and just places to get together. If you've got an idea, you know, you can find a couple soft operators and we can kind of talk through that really quickly. Last weekend we did a big hackathon. We're working a lot with Talos here. There are these new models of co-invention bringing everybody together and actually inventing something together and getting out of this, I'll work on a requirements for 2-year document to send it to an RFP to get a proposal back to develop something. We can't work at that speed on everything, right? We've got to be much more nimble of that. If you've got a piece I want you to bring it in. If you've got an idea, I want a place where you can come fight that idea. If you want to go talk to an operator, I want to make that easy on you. And again, last weekend hackathon that MILCOM Society put on, great event. And what I saw in about 2 days of random collections of students, individuals, a family showed up, some government guys were there. What we created just with open source software in a couple of days was, what a lot of folks would say, well, that's a result of a year or two RFP. How do we make that just the way we do business, not just a one-off event? Doing a lot of work there. And then again, you start thinking about 3D printing and new ways of operating and new ways of thinking and getting to the point where if you have a problem operationally, you can link back here. I've had 3D printers on Afghanistan for 6 years now. We just did our 26,000th project forward. All right, so now how do you make that so an operator can invent and design something? We can take a look at it, add our ideas to it, get it out to industry, get your ideas out, and then quickly send it back out to him or her so they can use it to solve the problem they have. Because my fear is, right, that we are a T-Rex. The thing that keeps me up at night is complacency and that we're reading all the books about us, right? And by T-Rex, I mean we're at the top of the food chain right up until the day we're extinct. And so if we're not challenging ourselves, if we're not just allowing ourselves to settle for the system, and this is what the system delivers, and this is what I have to do corporately, or this is what I have to do with the government, or whatever, then we're not going to get there. SOCOM's role, I think, is to help push the edge, both in technology and just as importantly, how do we transition technology quickly to the field? From that, the services can partner with us. They can do it at scale. But if somebody's not pushing that, we'll never get to that next step. That's what we're all about in SOF 18L. Thanks for my time. All right, now, before I take questions, anybody see the mule? DARPA mule, right? All right, Eagle? That was the lunar lander. Parrot? That was a hard one. Parrot drone. Barbers of Seville was a one song, Black Keys with another song, and then you saw a T-Rex here in Ozzy. All right, I keep my beer. All right, happy to take any questions you have. Thanks.
Could you discuss your efforts to get closer to the front edge of technology and then combine with operator insights to gain necessary human engineering outcomes?
So a piece of it is how do we create environments like SoftWorks or our test and experimentation cells or things we're doing, kind of in our innovation exercises that create the spot that allow folks to bring technology in and then include operators in that so that from there we can figure out what those wins are, perfect them, and then we can go acquire those. All right, what else?
The commands process for acquiring services needs some work, as can be demonstrated with the current SWMS acquisition. With SciTech 2 on the horizon, what steps are being taken to speed up the services acquisition process?
Good question. One was create a PEO services. The second is for SciTech 2, rather than create a new contract vehicle, we're going to use the GSA Alliant contract, which is a broad contract with a lot of providers, and then compete tasks on that contract so we can focus on competing the tasks, not awarding the broad contract before we award the tasks. Anything else?
You have a robust acquisition program and appear to have great flexibility to acquire services or products in support of SOCOM. How do you align with AT&L, and do you have the desired support from Secretary Kendall?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I talked to Mr. Kendall yesterday. So I think so, and I think the real alignment is as much with OSD as with the services. So we were talking earlier about the Marine Corps, been a great partner. we may do something and then they can take that rapidly. We do a pretty good job on our soldier systems, on our counter IED stuff. There's opportunity to continue to do that in some of our other areas. All right?
We have time for one more question. What developments are you watching in other services that you may want to pull over to SOCOM? What's your shopping list?
I watch a lot of things. So I'm not that smart, but I'm a good poacher. And so, you know, I will steal from anyone. I think, you know, services, particularly the service labs, have a lot of great ideas. They have a lot of relatively immature technology, and their challenge is how to get it looked at, which is a real challenge in the service system. So we spend a lot of our time with the labs and the DOE labs, and take technology relatively early in the cycle, evaluate it, and many times take it forward to the battlefield, look at it there, and then provide feedback.
That was our final question. Please welcome Lieutenant General Bob Wood back to the stage.
Stand by, Hondo. One more presentation. Our AFCEA chapter president has a small presentation for you.
Chapter president.
So, sir, you didn't realize how lucky you were. Not only are you speaking at MILCOM today, but you're also speaking at our local chapter monthly lunch,
Excellent.
which entitles you to the speaker presentation gift that we like to give our speakers. So, sir, thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. Thank you. Thanks, Russ.
And Hondo, on behalf of you, we will be presenting a gift to the Wounded Warriors. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, I assured you that the presentation would be world class, and as you can see, the energy, the passion, and really the deliverables that we see with SOCOM have a lot to do with Mr. Geurts and his team, and I know he gives them great credit equally. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the lunchtime presentation at this point. Let me point out that we're now going to move to the floor where we have a number of sessions that are upcoming. Those sessions are in both theaters, both the MILCOM Theater and in the Government Outreach Theater, where SOCOM will be making some presentations this afternoon. And I would point out that there's tickets to buy for a raffle, and the winners will be posted in the AFCEA booth. That will benefit the STEM programs that the chapter here in Tampa is taking underway. We are now going to let you exit, find the dessert on the exhibit floor, and the concurrent sessions begin at 2 o'clock in the two theaters. And now, please, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back here in 3:30 for the J6 panel led by Lieutenant General Mark Bowman. Thank you very much.
We have a set of values serving